Hey folks, it's a mysterious JG here with a new Let's Play adventure. I got some pretty rotten news today, and no more later, I suppose. But I felt like playing something that's going to be light and fun, and something I've been wanting to play since I received it as a Christmas gift from Bobo, Bean, and Baby Bronco. I'm sure Baby Bronco was the driving force behind this purchase, but I don't know if I'll just be ahead on this series before it goes public, or more likely, I'll just start posting like extra videos on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so that I can start releasing these early and just have way too much content on my channel, considering how many people have got actually watching it. But either way, like I said, today felt like a day where I only needed something to put me in a good mood, and Trials of Mana seemed to be the thing. So let's play. By myself, not with Bobo, because this is an entirely one-player game from what I've seen. There is no multiplayer support for this remake, Trials of Mana. So Trials of Mana, I guess I'll let the game go through its intro stages before I kind of briefly describe what this is. And, I mean, you can at least tell if you don't already know what this is, you can at least tell I'm playing it on a PS4, so it's a modern game, sort of, kind of maybe. And it's a mana game, so you've got rabbits bouncing along as your loading screen. And as with any great PS4 game, the loading screen is supposed to be smoothly animated, but it's as herky-jerky as anything because it's all caught up in the game loading. And they bring back the old school Square Enix sound from, well, the hell with it. I guess this is the time to explain. This is Seiken Densetsu 3, remastered for modern systems. It's not really remastered, it's remade. I found out later, well, it's about to go into the intro, so let's just let the story introduce itself, and then I'll explain what this remake is. When the world was surrounded in darkness, the goddess of mana drew forth the sword of mana to smite the ape and Ebadons, monsters of destruction, formerly known as god beasts. She sealed the horrors inside the 8 mana stones, bringing the realm back from the brink. The brink of the end of democracy, I don't know. Weak from rebuilding the world, the goddess changed into a tree and fell fast asleep for years. Lazy old you-know-what. However, the forces of evil sought to free the Benevodons to gain control of the world. They started a terrible war to further their plot and to stabilize the kingdoms. Oh, the mana stones are easier to find in this version. They're all sort of floating around. Peace was at an end. Although you can't get to this location early in the game. Mana itself began to disappear from the world, and the mana tree to wither. See, look, it's withering right there. Or some kind of super shield unit around the mana tree, or the Pure Land, or whatever they call it. The Mana Holy Land, I think it was called in the fan translation. I don't know what it's called in this version. The music is going to get pretty epic here. I don't know if we find out now or later that these are fairies from the Mana Kingdom trying to escape to reach help from the outside world, to find the spirits of mana, to replenish the tree and save the world. It's a very Secret of Mana-ish plot. Secret of Mana games tend to involve the mana tree getting destroyed and the world being reborn. Every single Secret of Mana game I've ever played has that basic plot, and yet still manages to be pretty fun and cool each time. Trials of Mana. The 12 Angry Men of Mana. And now, what would happen if I were... I'm just curious if I don't hit a button. But I think it's pretty much time to hit the button. It's probably going to...
Trials of Mana.
So I don't know which of the 6 heroes that is, or if Fairy can get that line. But when you get to the title screen, you get one of the 6 heroes saying Trials of Mana. And now, I'm not going to lie to you, I've been off-screening a lot because I really was looking forward to getting to play this game. And once I got it, it became the thing that I played around with off-screen while, you know, watching a Lethal Feline stream or listening to Mystery Science Theater or watching a Zerfall All Dragon LP, etc., etc. But that being said, I have reached the point where I've played ahead several hours, but I grinded to the point where I've probably broken the game for the initial playthrough. There is new stuff on this, and maybe this is where I need to explain it. Because this game now has a new Game Plus mode. It's got post-story dungeon and super boss. It's got a bunch of additions, but if you don't already recognize it, and I mentioned it really briefly, this is Seiken Densetsu 3. So Bobo the Vulture and I Let's Played a fan-made translation. That's one of the first really popular fan-translated JRPGs. And when we called it, and you can find it on my channel, that whole series is called Let's Play Together Secret of Mana 2. So that was a fan-translated version of the original Super Famicom game. I don't know what they had to do to make it like play on SNES emulators, because I think there are some minor technical differences between the Super Famicom and the Super Nintendo, but I'm not really an expert in any of that. All I know is that this is a remake, not a remastered version. There was a remaster of this game, apparently, that came out just a few years ago on the Switch. I don't think it ever came out on any system I owned. And I don't know if it was like really popular and successful, or if for some separate, unrelated reason, they decided to make a remake of the game as opposed to a remaster. This is available on PC, Switch, and PS4. And again, if I'm playing this game at too slow a pace and you want to see it, or you prefer the kind of... this would be a non-voice acted game that Bobo and I are playing, so we're doing all the voices and our typical... Bobo and I get together. It's a very different feel from when I Let's Play games by myself. I think there's something to be said for both. But I enjoyed the series Bobo and I do together, and you can go back and watch Secret of Mana 2 if you'd like. But in that, we did one playthrough as 3 of the heroes, because that's the way this game works. And maybe this is the time to explain when we do our new game, because I'll have to pick my heroes. Well, first of all, I'll go to the default brightness. I'll go with default difficulty. And now I'm going to have to pick my main character, but I guess we'll get a little more story first. I don't think this will just be the same intro again, but maybe it will. Nope, this is the title, the character select screen. And the music... You have the actual option in this game to play the original soundtrack. You can go into the options and switch from remaster sound or remake soundtrack to original soundtrack. But the remastered soundtrack is really faithful, and I'm enjoying it a lot so far. But in the original, back in the day, this is years ago, before I even went to Afghanistan, Bobo and I, and it was one of the most technically not capable Let's Plays on my entire channel. All sorts of goofy stuff going on. Bobo and I sitting in the same room, but him looking at a different screen from me. We're trying to look at my laptop, and it's angled in a way where it was hard for him to see. We were trying to record our voices with the same physical microphones as the game, so we had the game sound turned up real loud and couldn't hear each other. All sorts of technical problems. But it was still a fun series, and we had to pick 3 heroes, and it's an unusual game, actually, in that there's 3 possible final ultimate villains, and each of the 3 villains has 2 heroes who are associated with it. So depending on who you pick as your main character, the other 2 characters who come along the way don't affect the main story. But there's 2 characters. Angela and Duran have the same final boss, who's like some kind of evil dragon lord. Kevin, Wolfman Kevin, and Charliotto, who was known as... what was she called in the fan translation? She had a different name. Carly, I think it was. They have a final boss who is kind of an evil mage who turns out to be like the Dark Lich or something like that, whatever. Spoilers, I guess. But then Hawk, who is called Hawkeye in this remake, and Rhys, who is called Lise in the fan version, they have, at the end of the game, the Archdemon, he was like the crown prince of the City of Light, but there was a prophecy that they would bring destruction, and as a result they were hated and feared by their own people, and it became a self-fulfilling prophecy where their hatred for him turned his soul dark, and he became the king of the underworld and sought to bring the underworld to the world of humans. And when we played the game years ago, we had Hawkeye as our principal character, Wolfman Kevin as the first companion that Hawk met, and this was Bobo's character for 98% of Let's Play, baby. And then Pretty Princess Angela was the third character. And as a result, if you really want to see the story of the Archdemon, the Archfiend, the Prince of Light, who ultimately turns to darkness, and the story of Hawkeye saving the world with the help of his friends, you can actually go back and watch me and Bobo do that on the fan translation. So as a result, I figured what I wanted to do was pick a different set of characters with a different villain this time. And I found out that there's actually, in New Game Plus, which is, I think, a pretty smart choice they made for the remake, once you've won the main story once, you can do New Game Plus, where you get triple experience to play through the story again, and you don't have to play through as the same characters. So my tentative plan, depending on how much I enjoy it and how much people actually are watching and responding in the comments and whatnot, and so forth, that's less important than whether I'm enjoying the game. My plan is to ignore any playthrough with Hawk and Rhys as main characters, because we've already seen that ending. And instead, to do 2 playthroughs where I get the masked sorcerer lich guy ending and the evil dragon lord ending. And therefore I need to do 1 playthrough with Doran or Angela as my lead, and I can pick up characters that we didn't see in previous playthroughs so you can see them. And I need to do 1 playthrough with either Wolfman Kevin or Charlotte as my lead, and again pick up characters that we haven't seen yet. So I've overanalyzed all of this, but this is a long Let's Play. I hope you can give me a few minutes to chit-chat. Obviously, for any fan of my channel, and in my own heart of hearts, I have a soft spot for Hawk, I have a soft spot for Kevin, and I have a soft spot for Pretty Princess Angela. Probably bigger soft spot for Wolfman Kevin than anyone else, but I'm also anticipating him being, in a sense, the most... I don't want to get ahead of it, but he's the character that I might just find a little disappointing compared to my memories, because it won't be me and Bobo taking turns doing the "Ooh, Wolfman Kamara voice, baby." It'll be an actual voice-acted character. Not to mention that the allure of playing as Kevin might be the one that's powerful enough to pull me into a replay of the game. Therefore, to start with, we're going to play the game as Pretty Princess Angela. Angela is the only daughter of the true Queen of Altena, the snow-covered kingdom of magicians. Because Angela's mother hardly spent any time with her as a child, the princess was prone to act out to get attention, wearing gaudy clothes and playing pranks on people in the castle. Despite this, her love for her mother runs deep. And this text is not scrolling in a way that works for me. Angela never got the hang of casting magic spells, a problem that plagues her to this day. So Angela has the worst strength and stamina in the game, but she is the smarty pants of the adventure, and she's got really high spirit and mediocre luck. Charlotte probably has similar intelligence. No, she's got intellect of C. Interesting. Lisa's dumb as a post, except that she's Rhys now. But she's not as dumb as Kevin. Or Doran. So Angela is by far the most intelligent of the characters, and she has spirit at the same level as Carly. And for anybody who remembers the mechanics of the last game, it's a little different. I carefully avoided trying to level up the party until after we had all the spirits, because Angela in particular was affected by learning a new spell. One spell per level up, and that was it, no matter how many she was queued up to learn. It doesn't work the same way in this game. And as a matter of fact, you have to allocate points across, like, training points. We'll get into all this later, but Angela will have more rounded stats by the end of this than she would at the end of a Super NES playthrough, because I won't just be pouring everything into intelligence. If I do, certain spells won't become available that require her to have stamina, strength, etc. But
I'm Angela, Princess of Altena.
Angela will be our main. And it's a weird thing. I'll mention it now. Well, you know what? I'll mention it in 1 second. The next character we're going to play as here is Duran. No one can beat him. Because Angela and Duran, apparently all the characters who are paired up together with the same villain have a handful of unique dialogues they can have between them. And unfortunately, in 2 playthroughs, we'll only see 2 sets of them. But I'm not that interested. Like the Carly Kevin ones, I don't know. I can't be bothered. So probably I'll have Hawk and Rise in the same party so we can see any dialogue they have. But since Angela is our main, we might as well have her paired up with Duran, with whom she has some unique dialogue. Duran is a proud young soldier from Valsena, Kingdom of the Plains. Though he comes across as a hot-headed and ready for a fight, the whole kingdom acknowledges his skills with the blade. Duran has nothing but love for his kingdom and respect for the Hero King, a good friend of his departed father, Loki the Golden Knight. Now, you would think that Duran is the best physical damage dealer, and in fact, it's a weird kind of game. Kevin, Wolfman Kevin, not that surprisingly since he's a freaking werewolf, he's the one who's the main damage dealer if you take the correct path. But you also have the option, like we did on the SNES playthrough, of making him a healer. It's a bit weird. Duran is similar. Duran can learn healing magic, but he's supposed to be used as physical damage guy, and that's what we'll be using him for in this playthrough.
I'm a soldier from Valsena. The name's Duran.
No one can beat me. So I was going to say the voice acting is something. I saw a lot of reviews for this game before I put it on my Amazon wish list and dropped hints that I really wanted it. And one of the things that every reviewer said is the voice acting is hit or miss. Angela's really great, but overall you have to say the voice acting sucks. I always choose the Japanese language settings whenever I have Charlotte in my party. And in fact, Charlotte, who is a bit annoying, is going to be our third character. And one of the reasons for this is that if I come back and play this game again, I'm going to have Kevin be my lead and have him accompanied by his old buddy Hawk and Rise. So in order to have a healer and to have Duran concentrate on physical damage, we're going to use Charlotte. She was referred to in the SNES fan translation as Carly, and for JG channel junkies, Bobo voiced her on the occasions she showed up in the plot. She wasn't in our party, but she would still show up. That was a neat thing about that game. The 3 characters you don't choose for your party still pop up because they still exist in the world. They just don't travel with you and are not part of your party. But when Carly showed up, because she kept referring to herself in the third person, Bobo gave her the voice of Bob Dole. By the time we're done with this Let's Play, you might wish she had the voice of Bob Dole instead of the one she does have. Charlotte is the granddaughter of Wendell's Priest of Light. She looks much younger than she is thanks to the elfin blood in her veins. Perhaps because of this, she has always been coddled by the people who raised her in the temple. Charlotte's bright and outgoing personality can be both an asset and a hindrance. Though curious, she's superstitious and a bit of a scaredy cat. She's primarily a healer. You can go down a dark path with her in the character development stuff, and she becomes a little bit more of an offensive mage, which we're not going to need because of Angela. But I might take her down that path anyway, because essentially I'm just find the path for each character that I think is the most interesting and don't worry too much about them being a great team, because the game's really not that hard. But Charlotte, a.k.a. Carly, a.k.a. Bob Dole, will be our third and final party member.
I'm Charlotte, resident beauty of Wendell.
She has a lisp. I think probably what's most bothersome to me about these reviews I've seen online is that everyone complains about Charlotte and her voice, but she has a lisp by design. Her character's supposed to have a lisp. All y'all out there doing these reviews talking about how much you hate the voice acting, you're really just hating on people with speech impediments, and you should be ashamed. On that note, let's proceed with this party. Silver and gold mana statues. I will allow you to read about them for yourself. The load times in this game are not fantastic. I've long lamented that every time I get a new generation video game system, one thing they don't seem to worry about is programming games so that load times are reduced. And that very short, repetitive track kind of needed to end.
In Altena, the kingdom of magicians, the true queen's magic was all that kept the freezing temperatures of the surrounding snowy lands at bay.
Well, thanks for coming in and narrating so that I can save my voice.
But as the mana of the
Oh, it's
world
Christmas
grew
all year
weaker,
round here, apparently.
so did her power.
There's lights in the trees.
Bit by bit, the ice and cold began to encroach on the castle.
Bit by bit, row by row.
Citizens, we all feel the magic draining from the land as mana weakens. For our mighty kingdom of Altena, this is of grave concern.
Mm-hmm.
We shall
This
not
guy's name was
sit
Korin in
idly
the
while our
SNES
country
version.
crumbles. No.
No.
We must open the forbidden portal to the sanctuary of mana, and then we can obtain the sword of mana.
The Sons of Liberty. Skin tight purple dress, rhubarb.
Be still. Legend says the portal to the sanctuary of mana only appears after activating the mana stones throughout the world. Obviously, no country would willingly give up a precious mana stone, so we expect a certain amount of resistance.
But, you know, we're gonna
We
kill him.
shall
It's not a problem.
muster our strength and take the mana stones by force. Our true queen will obtain the sword of mana to rule her magic empire.
Has she got anything to say about this?
True Queen! Glory to Altena!
True Queen's got a chest tat, or is that a... No, that's not supposed to be a tat. That's her freaking gown.
Oh,
What are you
come
talking
on,
about?
Jose! Please?
No way, Jose! I mean, no way.
Hush!
Is she bouncing a book on her head?
Shout, Your Highness. Honestly, you know, I used to be the sharpest of the great magic users.
That doesn't
who
mean you have good
now
hearing, old man.
Yeah.
Whoa, hang on. I do not need another trip down your winding memory lane.
Okay, it's not. It's just a cow hat. She doesn't have, like... I thought she was bouncing a book on her head for, like, her posture or something.
I've told you time and time again. You cannot use magic simply by learning the
But I
steps.
didn't step. I just kind of waved my arms.
Your magic has not manifested because you rely on form instead of spirit.
There's no swimsuit competition in the
Please,
magic
not another lecture.
class.
Fine, I just won't ask for lessons anymore then. Take that.
Round eye, you gaijin creep.
Oh, this child.
What child is this? Never mind, we're fading onto my scene.
Look, there's Victor. Hey, Victor! Hey!
Hi, Victor. What's up?
Oh, morning, Your Highness.
Mm-hmm.
Have you finished your magic lessons already? You know Jose complains to me whenever you skip lessons, right? But please consider my plight next time, Your Highness.
Listen, I'm a princess. You should just be happy that I'm talking to you.
Angela, princess and heir to the throne of Altena. With a heavy burden dogging her steps, Angela grew up fatherless in the shadow of her mother's royal duties.
And now the
Her
flashback music
childhood
has
was extremely
weighed
lonely.
heavily on her.
Instead of affection from her mother, it seemed all she received were scoldings.
At least her mother talks
Though
in the
she
past, so
knew
apparently
that
she
the
doesn't
queen
now.
had important responsibilities that kept the two from playing. That knowledge didn't stop Angela's frustrated tears.
Man, the new female narrator is a lot more empathetic. Or was the narrator always female? Am I losing my mind here?
Starved for attention, the princess grew into a rebellious youth.
A rebellious ...
She often acted out, playing pranks on members of the court.
Pranks like having them
Though
executed
Angela
for sedition.
became a renowned beauty, much like her mother. She remained woefully unable to wield.
I thought
the
her mother was
magic
good at
powers
magic.
of
You
her
need to
bloodline.
be careful with your comma
That
placement.
lack of talent was never far from her mind.
Ugh, I am so bored. Why does nothing ever happen around here?
Well, hey, Victor exists. Isn't that exciting? So, this game, it's weird. They add stuff, but they're pretty faithful to the original script. I remember. Well, also, I think they really captured Angela. Like, this is like the kind of over the top, skimpy, sexy outfit is kind of what Angela was about in the SNES game. Like lots of like hair tossing and SNES era sprite where there was kind of a lot of SNES era legs showing. So they've got the spirit of Angela down pretty well. Some of the other characters, they get them all pretty well. Like Kevin is the one where it's like I was never really sure what the hell he was supposed to look like in the SNES version, and they take a good stab at it here. But I remember like her little brief introductory chapter playing as her offline, because in the online, in the version on YouTube, we played through Hawk's introductory chapter. She meets Victor, and I remember thinking like, oh, like that must be like her love interest, because she seems really excited to see him in a way that, her character is portrayed as being this vaguely, maybe just a little bit stuck up princess, like, But yeah, now that playing it again all these years later, it's like, actually, it's just as weird now as it was then. Like, that's really the only interaction they had. And it's just kind of like, I don't know what I'm getting at, other than I always got this impression that, oh, that's going to end up being her love interest, and he's not going to be a major character here. Another thing to note here, a huge chunk of time in the original version of the game was spent just not knowing where to go. They've really... Other people don't like it. I like it. They tell you exactly where to go all the time. You don't have to go there. You can have a relaxing, non-linear Steambot Chronicle-style adventure, but, like, there was so many points where we just got, like, Bobo and I going back and forth. Like, in that first point in the story where you're trying to get Fairy to show up, and it's like you have no idea what dialogue is it that we haven't had. Do I need to go see something here and then go back to the town? Blah, blah, blah. Angela's little introductory chapter is going to be quite efficient if I decide I don't want to go around talking to everybody. Also, because I'm going to be loading the game later to take advantage of all this power leveling, I really don't care if we find all the little... Like, we found a treasure chest with 40 lucre, which is the money. Really don't care if we find all of that, but I would like to get as much backstory on our main characters as we can and talk to people. For example, Jose. Have you reconsidered taking magic lessons, Your Highness? Oh, JG, don't. Please don't. No way, Jose. Aha, see, it's a joke. No way. She doesn't say Jose, but it's no way, Jose. It's not like I've meted magic so far, am I right? Toodles. Yeah, that's kind of her character. It's like she's supposed to be able to do magic, and she can't, and she feels insecure about it, but she won't let anyone know. She acts like she's too cool for, to care about it. But she goes around carrying a witch's staff with which to open cases and stuff, and she actually keeps it on her back. Oh, that's right. You can actually... I forgot. I can show off the combat mechanics even in town in this game. And another thing I always found strange about the Altena Empire, maybe we get a little bit more backstory on them in this remake, and maybe not, but like her magic instructor is male, and it was never clear to me whether Victor was supposed to know magic or not, because he's, like I said, he's not a major character. But the Crimson Wizard, who I think was called Corin in the fan translation, is male. Otherwise... NPCs are a mixture of male and female, but the only ones that are shown to be like magic users are the women. And years ago, I was actually trying to write a fantasy story, like... It's a whole long story I'm not going to get into, but like one of the things I had was kind of inspired by this game. I was like, okay, a country where the women are magic users and the men can use magic but generally don't, and trying to come up with reasons that would happen other than just it would be a neat thing for a fantasy setting, like trying to come up with some backstory for the country which would explain why it worked that way. And I won't go into that a whole lot more, except that, yeah, like this whole notion, they have this entirely female magic army, even though men in the country also use magic, and a queen who has a daughter. And don't hold your breath waiting for to meet Angela's father, because there's a little bit of a hint that there's some secret behind that, but Angela herself doesn't seem to find it odd that she doesn't have a father and doesn't know anything about her father. It's this kind of weird fantasy matriarchal queendom, I suppose you'd say. But it's also me blathering on what I should be calling it a video. So when we come back next time, we will continue exploring Angela's prologue chapter. And for anybody who's worried about it, another little thing that this game does that the SNES original and Super Famicom original didn't do, when we find our new party members, we will be given an option. We don't have to do it, but we can go back and play their prologue chapters and find out their full backstory rather than just getting, like, summary dialogue version. So for those of you who are really excited about Duran and Charlotte and wanted them to be the star, it's not going to make much of a difference. We're just going to open things up with Angela. And we'll continue with Angela next time. See you then, guys.